We're going to look at what are known as keyboard modifiers in a moment, but prior to that, I want to look at adding a couple of extra files to our project panel and adding our bins back in too. Remember those bins that we created a few tutorials ago? So remember how we did this? To add a bin simply means clicking here and then naming them appropriately. Now I'm going to save you some time whilst I do this, now that I've just done this first one and named it as audio, so I'll pause the screen recording whilst I do this. Okay, all done, we're back. As you can see, I've got these bins, and within the video bin are all these video clips. So, a quick way of adding a number of these videos to the timeline and a new sequence is to highlight some. I'll select these here, these 5, and then I'll go down to this button again. Consequently now those videos get moved to a new sequence and onto the timeline in that order and at the video clip's original or full length. We'll look later at editing and trimming these clips. You might want to change the name, by the way, of this sequence because the sequence takes on a clip name by default. So I want to rename this more appropriately. I'll click on the sequence name and I'll change it to Angle C. And you can also see now that it's been updated here too. Right, as you can appreciate, working at this screen real estate is a little bit cramped. So I just want to resize the panels so we can see better. Okay, so if I want to move any of these clips on the timeline to a new position, well, I can do. This second one, for example, I could left click on it and drag to the end of the sequence set so far. Well, that's fine. It now gets placed at the end of our sequence as we wanted it. Admittedly, there's a gap where it came from, so we'd need to close that up by selecting all these clips to the right. The quick way of doing this, left click just outside one of these clips and rubber band around to select them all, and then simply drag up against our first clip. There are other ways of doing this as well, but this is one of the quickest ways. Okay, but I do want you to notice this. Look what occurs when I drag another clip, this one here, the 4th one, and I want to drag this 4th one to the left and move over an existing clip, maybe over clip number 2 here. Well, as you can see, it replaces or overwrites that clip and also leaves a gap where it came from. You can see, therefore, we require a better method of moving whole clips around to avoid this problem. Well, that's where keyboard modifiers come in. I'll just hit Ctrl+Z to undo to revert back to where we were a moment ago. A keyboard modifier allows us to use a combination of keyboard buttons to alter, change, or modify the behavior of a function that occurs by default. This unwanted example of overwriting an existing clip when you move another clip to its position caused the problem just experienced. So what we need is a modified way of doing the same action, but with an additional keyboard setting that modifies the behavior only for as long as the key is engaged. So let's repeat what we just did, i.e. grabbing clip 4 and repositioning to the clip 2 position. But we want to modify the behavior by making clip 4 grab clip 2's position, but not overwrite clip 2. We want clip 2, and all those that follow it, to be shuffled further down the timeline to accommodate the length of clip 4. Well, this is what we do. For PC, hold your Control key down whilst you do it. For Mac, it's Command. Once you do, you'll notice the cursor changes to that new icon, and as you drag to the left to the desired new position, as you deselect Control or Command, this clip grabs that position and moves the following clips along to accommodate. You'll also see those vertical lines to indicate this clip will snap to there, and the direction of travel for the shuffled clips is indicated by those multiple tiny white arrows. Okay, so far, that's how we move clips around and insert edit when we are moving clips that are already existing on the timeline. But if you want to bring a new clip onto the timeline and insert edit that so that the following clips shuffle along to accommodate, well, you can do. So by coming back over to our project panel and by choosing any of these files, for this example, I'll left click and drag and drop to the timeline. And then by using Control or Command on Mac, I can insert edit here, and we now see those pointing white arrows to indicate the direction of travel the following clips will move to. By the way, although it makes sense to insert edit at clip division points as we have done so far, you can, if you prefer, use the same keyboard modifier, Control or Command, to insert edit part way through an existing clip on the timeline. For example, I'll just show you this. With this number 3 clip, I can move it part way through clip number 4 and then hold my Control key down and insert it there. Consequently, the second half of the number 4 clip gets shuffled along, as does whatever follows number 4. Okay, so that's how keyboard modifiers work. I just want to finish off this tutorial by showing you a clip context menu. We'll revisit this later, but I thought it worth introducing it here as well. If you right click on a clip once it's been selected, you'll open up this. This is called the context menu. And because we've got that clip selected, I can run to that option there and choose clear. Now what that does, it leaves that empty gap on the timeline, which as we've seen so far, isn't really what we want, and really is only the same as selecting it on the timeline and hitting delete on your keyboard. If you want to use the context menu to achieve exactly what we've been doing so far with the Insert Edit modifier, then first of all select a clip, right click again so that we open up the context menu, and then this time don't choose clear but choose that option there, Ripple Delete. And as you can see, that works in exactly the same way as that keyboard modifier that we've used and scrutinized a few times already. Okay, so that's what we can do then with keyboard modifiers, so that we can save some time when we are editing on our timeline.